A lovely circus performer finds herself in peril as the entrance of a mystery entity disrupts her once humdrum existence. A diverse range of species existed long before humans in Earth's many eras. While many monsters have thrived and evolved, one thing has failed to develop due to a lack of resources: the ideal vessel to cling to as it hunts for millennia. It eventually made its way to Africa, passing through various hosts until it was captured by hunters. Leopard is the most recent watercraft. The animal is transported by ship to human civilization and sold as a commodity. A truck drives into a parcel of land in France, bringing cargo for circus owner Loman. Yonka goes on a weighing scale inside a mobile house and records the result on a piece of paper taped to the wall. While looking for Loman outside, the truck driver peers into the trailer and notices Yonka through one of the windows. Loman walks out of the trailer and confronts the man for spying on his wife. When they hear the circus animals reacting to something in the truck, Loman asks the driver what he brought him, and the man replies that it's an animal. They place it in their cage, and the workers are overjoyed with the new addition. Meanwhile, the driver steals glances at Yonka, who emerges to see the scene outside. The driver expresses regret to the woman for what occurred before. Then he begins flirting and vying for her attention, as Loman observes them from a distance. As Yonka approaches her husband, the leopard begins to act abnormally, fiercely attempting to leave the cage. Loman instructs everyone to let the animal alone so it can relax. Later, the tamer attempts to train 3 tigers for their upcoming show. Loman comes and chastises Yonka for being late before shoving her into the performance area. A few moments later, the tamer suspects that something is disturbing the tigers. In the middle of practicing, one of the tigers jumps over the terrified woman, causing her to flee in terror. Outside the tent, the driver follows her and the two share a passionate kiss. When they notice Loman approaching, the driver flees, leaving Yonka in a precarious position. When her husband notices her, he slaps her across the face. Yonka naps in bed later that night, while Loman conducts some bookkeeping. He goes outside to investigate after hearing a disturbance outside. When the circus owner sees the depressed tamer, he learns that the new leopard died after something broke out of the animal's body. Loman gathers his workers to find the unknown creature after viewing the gruesome animal carcasses. The parasitic slug-like thing enters Yonka's trailer roof, slithers towards the bed, and enters her body, unbeknownst to them. Loman returns inside after noticing the dog barking at his trailer. He notices Yonka sleeping quietly and undisturbed on the bed. Yonka vomits in the bathroom the next day because she is sick. She weighs herself, startled that she's gained 4 pounds in one day. Yonka later goes to the hospital to be checked. Yonka returns to the circus with trepidation after learning the outcome of her exam. Yonka caresses her womb as she witnesses her husband fighting with another circus employee. Yonka packs her clothes and steals Loman's money out of concern for her child's safety. She then rushes away to catch the train. A cab driver tells Loman about a woman he dropped off in a shady part of town a few days later. The driver recalls how unsteady she appeared and how she mumbled to herself. Loman enters the poor building in search of his wife when the taxi drops him off. The man discovers Yonka in her red robe on the upper floor. He hugs and loves his wife, pleading with her to return home. Yonka is holding a kitchen knife behind her back. Loman falls to the ground when the woman stabs him in the abdomen. Unsettled, she inquires as to what she should do next. She then holds her knife above Loman, ready to slaughter him, but Yonka begs someone not to force her to do so. The woman, unable to complete the act, throws the knife and moves away from her husband. Loman clutches her robe, and Yonka flees in horror, screaming. Yonka begins talking to herself, and a demonic voice from the woman's womb responds, taunting her to murder her husband. Yonka wakes up the next day and sips water from the rain dripping from the ceiling. The woman walks over to Loman and takes her red robe. The voice suddenly comes up, stating that it is eager for Loman's blood. Yonka quickly clutches her stomach, aware that it is her child's voice. It informs its mother that it needs to feed in order to grow, but Yonka is hesitant to cooperate. However, if she does not feed the child, it will burst out of her body. Yonka takes the fork and attempts to stab her stomach, but the thing injures her from within. As she crawls to Loman's body, the lady falls to the ground and vomits blood. Yonka is forced to cut up her deceased spouse and swallow his blood because of the agonizing grief. Yonka awakens that night to the sound of pandemonium in the building, so her child alerts her of the danger and she exits the building. Yonka takes a broken bottle and creeps toward the surprised man in an alley after the beast urges her to cut a beggar's throat. She walks toward the river and leaps in to drown herself, determined to defy the creature's commands. The infant begs Yonka to preserve herself, saying that it will never injure her again. Yonka later sits by the river, wrapped in a big blanket. Her child apologizes and attempts to persuade her that it is not a monster by claiming that it speaks and thinks like a person. Later on, a truck drives by, and the driver offers her a ride. When they stop at a gas station on the way, the man begins telling Yonka his life story. The driver, unable to penetrate Yonka's stony shell, orders her to change her clothes in the gas station while he fills up the vehicle. However, the man is merely interested in getting her out of the vehicle because he has already convinced 2 other women to travel in his truck instead. He abandons Yonka at the petrol station, and her child observes how cruel the world of man can be. Richard, a man, walks into a restaurant 2 months later and waits in queue. He starts pleading with his enraged lover, Rose, for forgiveness for his infidelity as soon as he gets to the cashier. Richard asks for money and receives his lunch for free after seducing the woman. The man is seated at one of the tables and notices Yonka, who is stunning, works bussing tables at a restaurant. A few moments afterward, Yonka strolls downstairs with the enamored man trailing after her. Richard stumbles in the dark, losing his balance and yelling as he hits the floor, asking him what he's doing in the vacant downstairs dining room. Rosette hears the commotion. Richard tells a falsehood, claiming he was searching for the toilet. When the couple departs, Yonka and the creature express their disappointment at not being able to feed on the oblivious man. Later, Rosette is waiting for her beau to pick her up from work outside the restaurant when she discovers a bloodied napkin on the floor. Meanwhile, the creature instructs Yonka to locate their next prey at a neighboring restaurant. Richard enters minutes later and joins her at the table, and her child notes on how simple it is. Its purpose is to entice human men. Yonka and the monster were bored by the babbling pompous man's stories during the lunch. Richard shows her a photo of himself as a circus clown and asks whether she's finished anything noteworthy in her life. Richard walks her home after they leave the restaurant. He tries to persuade Yonka to let him in, but she refuses, citing her illness. Rosette calls Richard the next day, but he does not respond. As she watches the woman descend the stairs into the vacant dining area, she begins to suspect Yonka. Yonka wanders the streets that night and discovers a potential victim. She follows him into a building, and the man inquires as to why she is following him. The duped man kisses Yonka just before she stabs his neck with a dagger. Yonka flees to avoid capture, and the man is killed. She arrives at her flat and finds Richard waiting for her at the top of the stairs. They then spend the night having love together. Yonka wakes up the next morning and takes a cigarette from Richard's pocket. The creature chastises her and orders her to stop smoking while pregnant. Yonka threatens to stab her stomach with scissors because she has had enough of the creature's totalitarian grip over her body. Richard enters the kitchen after hearing her loud screeches, interrupting her insane behavior. He displays a desire for their connection to continue and even expresses a desire to marry and have children with her. Yonka, insane, stabs the poor man in the stomach while he yells in pain. Rosette abruptly knocks on Yonka's door and demands to meet her adulterous lover. She enters the pitch-black kitchen after Yonka opens the door. Yonka locks Rosette in the room and flees the building in a fit of fear. Rosette knocks on Yonka's door and begs for permission to leave. When the refrigerator door unexpectedly opens, Richard begs her while struggling to breathe for support. Rosette screams in terror at the horrifying scene. An individual calls Yonka's taxicab 6 months later. He motions for her to turn right, but she refuses, determined to pursue. Yonka elbows the passenger in the face to control him while he begs the woman to let him leave. Yonka sideswipes the jogger before forcing the man into a corner and slamming the car into him. She then exits the vehicle and uses a large metal tool to strike the victim in the neck, causing him to lose his head. When her passenger wakes up, they both witness the horrific situation. He tries to flee in panic but is struck by an approaching truck. After some time, the creature asks its mother if she has become fond of him. The mother responds that she has. Although she dreams of the child's tragic birth, her fear of its monstrosity keeps her from truly accepting the child. Yonka's automobile breaks down one day, and a kind man offers to fix it. The woman suddenly vomits blood, startling the mechanic. He flags down a cab and requests that it transport her to the closest hospital, thinking she is about to give birth. Yonka doesn't want to go to the hospital, but the man promises her that she will arrive there shortly. He loses control of the steering when the woman clutches his arm, causing the car to crash into a wall. Yonka manages to escape, but she passes out from exhaustion. Later, when a compassionate older woman tends to her, she awakens on a couch. Yonka, however, uses a telephone cord to strangle the woman before fleeing via the window. Yonka cries and asks the monster what is wrong with her. The creature replies that she will soon give birth. When the baby is born, the expecting mother finds out that it will want to go back to the sea because that's where it originated from. It will continue to develop for eons in the ocean until it has reached a form that can rule the earth. The youngster urges its mother to rob a blood transfusion bus because it needs more blood to finish the creature's manifestation. Yonka is successful in getting everyone but one man to leave the bus by frightening them with a fake gun, including the doctors and donors. She snags the blood bags and swallows them, feeding the hungry beast. Yonka steals the bus and flees with her child to the sea. The weakened man at the back of the bus creeps up and snatches Yonka while the woman is in control, causing the bus to crash. Yonka is soon saved by an ambulance, but the man on the bus is killed. When he is unable to find the woman's pulse, the medic stops trying to revive her with CPR. Her body begins to feel cold, and the creature inside her begins to fear that its mother is dying. The creature forces Yonka's heart start beating again in an effort to keep her alive, awakening the expectant mother. She attacks the doctor by pressurizing him with gas, which causes his body to blow up. When the ambulance's driver hears the noise and pulls over to investigate, Yonka hits him in the face with an oxygen tank. The woman suddenly has contractions as she enters childbirth. Yonka begins to push the child out, and after some time, she succeeds in giving birth to a human infant. Later, she robs a man who had stopped to consult a road map of his minivan. She tries to ask her child what she should do next while driving the automobile. The child, however, is unable to speak with her any longer. They get car difficulty in the middle of their drive, so Yonka stops at a petrol station. A passing passenger overhears the crying of the infant after she abandons it in the car. As he gets closer to the car, he can see the infant through the window. The creature suddenly grabs the traveler and drags him inside the car where it will eat him. Yonka instantly returns to the car after hearing the man's screams. But all she discovers is the dead man and the creature's abandoned human skin. Yonka discovers a bloody path that leads to a bus carrying soccer players. She asks the driver to take her somewhere so she can sneakily look for the monster. Later, when one of the players awakens, he spots Yonka and promptly lets the others know. She anxiously tries to warn the males about the dangerous beast while they harass her and aggressively touch her. The beast sneaks up on and assaults the driver without the other passengers' knowledge. Yonka escapes the men's hold and sprints to the bus's steering wheel to take over control after the man loses control of it. One of the gamers then screams in terror after noticing the repulsive thing attached to the driver's head. He rushes to the back of the vehicle, alarming the other passengers. Yonka decides to let go of the steering wheel and accept her fate as the bus collides with a road sign and explodes as she observes the creature's final state and the potential harm it might bring. The creature, which survived the bus catastrophe, eventually returns to the sea the next day.